Ever since we decided to build a new boat, there was one thing that we knew from the beginning that we wanted to have, and that is a deck saloon sailboat. The reason for that is because, of course, we want to have the visibility from inside. We want to be able to stay on the warm, dry, and see everything outside of the boat, but also because we want to have as many solar panels as possible. We don't want to have a diesel generator. I think nowadays it's possible to live out of solar, and in order to do that, having a big roof make it much easier. There's also a perk. We want to collect the rainwater. I think it doesn't make sense to throw good free water that comes from the sky away. You never know when the water maker is gonna break. But in order for us to do that, there is something that we need to add to the roof. We need to add a trim around the roof to be able to collect the water. And that, even though it seems like a really simple task, it can be really complicated because, as you know by now, once you weld aluminum, it tends to warp a lot, and the roof has an overhang that it's really fragile in a way that there is not much support, and we need to reinforce in a way, and we need to weld in a way that is watertight and that is not bent. So it's gonna be a tricky one, but we can do it. Let's get started. So the idea today, before Peter starts working on the welding of the roof from the inside, again, like yesterday, I'm gonna start working on the finishings of the side of the roof. I decided to change. It was a really high finishing, like 12 centimeters, and we are gonna do probably 5.5 or 6. So in order to do that, I need to tack weld them in place. I mean, Peter is going to tack weld them in place, and then I can mark where is the right height, and then we can take it out, and then I can do the cut, and then he welds back in place. That's the idea. Originally, this is the height. Okay. I don't think we need to go this high. No, just to collect water. You don't need that much to collect water.
Where are all the drains?
We're gonna have one pipe there and one pipe there. So in order to make 100% sure that we want to change the detail of the roof on the top, we need to put the finishing in place so we can have a feeling of what it looks like right now and what would it look like if we change. But it's really tricky to put the front part because there is a big angle, so it's not like a flat trim, it's an angle trim on an angle of 38.62 degrees. Of course, we're not gonna get it right if you just hold the plate in place. So I'm creating a little jig that I can clamp to the aluminum plate, and I can just sit on the top of the roof. So this is the angle between the roof and the finishing. If I slide this in place, I can put the panel, clamp it here, and then we can tack weld, and then it's gonna sit in place. But I need to find a way now to clamp this to the panel, so maybe just a hole here.
It's like a guy with a mustache.
What do you think? We should just leave like this? It's like a cowboy boat, a mustache. I think we're just gonna leave like this. It looks awesome. Yeah, so basically we're just trying to put this piece in place so you have a feeling if we like the design or not. It feels like it's a little bit too wide. The guy that designed the boat thought it was a good idea. I wasn't sure about it, and I said, do whatever you think you should do. And now it feels like a little bit too big.
It's been a while I don't come to the boat to check it out. And this week they made a lot of progress. Tiny ones, but specific ones and nice ones. Let's see.
We tried the finishing. We didn't like the finishing. It's too big. This week we're gonna weld again in place, and we're gonna mark and trim much smaller than the finishing on the roof. We need something to hold the water on the roof. Otherwise, I would just prefer not to have any finishing. I like the way it is, but I think it's a waste of space of water. Just I cannot throw all this rainwater away. It's just possible.
So big.
Yeah.
Ah, you are also trying the new hatch in place.
Yep. So we are still deciding the position of the hatch on here because we need to see the sails from inside.
Should we put the hatch in the middle or two on the sides? But when you are sailing, the boom is never on the middle, it's to one of the sides, so it's better to see from the middle.
I don't know, yeah, and also I think we just want one instead of two. I'm not sure, we'll see. We're still thinking about it. It's nothing that's 100% certain.
If we have one, we have more space for solar panels, and also during like when you are living on a boat, to have hatches on the top on cold weather is okay, but on hot weather is like too hot.
Yeah, it heats up a lot.
Yeah, it heats up a lot.
Yeah, we are still waiting for some flat bars to be able to finish the roof. The next step is to have the flat bars so we can finish the entire roof, and then we can do the finishes, and then I hope by the end of next week or so the entire roof of the boat is going to be 100% ready, and that's freaking awesome. Now I'm going to go back to work. I still need to cut another plate.
Okay.
See you guys
I
later.
really like it, the progress of this week.
I don't know if you realize the amount of bracing that Peter welded to the top of the roof. The reason for that I talked about many times before, and you know it, the warping. You know, a cat, when it gets afraid of the water, it cannot even get close to the water. That's us with warping at this moment. So we're like, no, instead of risking, we're gonna over brace 100%. That's it. We just over brace to make sure, to guarantee that nothing happens. So now that the roof is watertight, we can move on. But before we do that, there is one more thing that we need to fix. This roof was built in two pieces. So the plate on the top has the port side and the starboard side welded together on the center line. I don't know why. Potentially, maybe, I don't know, the cleaning of the seam, or could be, I'm not sure what was the problem, but Peter found a few spots where the weld failed, where there's like a little dot that potentially can have a leak or potentially can have a crack. So he decided to analyze really closely and to mark every single little spot, and then to cut open the top of the weld to redo the last layer of weld, and also to fix these little dots to guarantee that we have a watertight roof. But of course, once we finish the aluminum job of the boat, we're gonna do a penetration die test on most of the welds, and then we can fix little spots, because it's really normal when you build such a big thing out of aluminum that every now and then you're gonna have a weld that fails. But it's easy, you just need to find where they are and you need to grind them and weld them again, and it's all good. But we're gonna do that in the future. For now, let's keep going on the roof. Of course, nothing ever goes exactly as planned. Today was a simple mission. We have a 70 centimeters overhang on the outside of the roof, and that's to create just a protection from weather. and we need to add some reinforcements. We need to add some stringers, some T-bars underneath, and we had originally from the boat yard just 3 T-bars coming out of the roof, and that's way too little, and those T-bars were not even welded, but they were a little, it feels like the end of the roof was a little bit bent, so it felt like something simple. You just press to the position and you weld. It's easily pushed to the position, but Peter welded 3 T-bars, and when he realized the roof was just going down and down and down, so now we are on the mission to bring the roof back to the position, to the right shape. So I added 4 jacks to create the round shape. I don't know if you see, but here there's a little bit of a low spot. Here is more round. So we are trying to jack it up to the right position to add a stiffener on the top temporarily, just so we can add the T on the bottom and then the finishing on the outside. I think with the finishing on the outside, the one that comes right in front of here, it's gonna be easier to hold the shape because it's gonna just tie everything together on the opposite direction. But again, that's something that we are not sure yet. Potentially the T-bars that Meta used is not strong enough. We might need something with bigger dimension if it doesn't hold the shape. We'll see. We're gonna try this first, and if it doesn't work, we need to add T-bars with bigger dimensions, and hopefully we'll hold the shape. Every day is something new. I thought it was gonna be an easy one today. Naive. So now that Peter already welded all the braces on the top, he also welded fully the bulkhead on the back because it needs to be watertight. The next step now is to add the T-bars all the way, and then instead of taking the braces already, we are gonna try to install the trim in front, hoping that this trim will actually help to keep the shape once we take the trims out, the braces out, because these braces are what's holding the shape. We did a measurement with a cardboard, and it's really similar both sides. It's pretty close. It's close enough. It's like 3 millimeters different. That's nothing. So we are really afraid that once we take the braces out, it will go down again. So the idea is we put the front piece that is like 80 millimeters, so it's pretty tall, fully weld, and then we weld a bar on the top, the finishing that's going to be a round solid bar, and hopefully that will keep the shape. That's scary. I'm not sure. We'll see. We need to try and see what happens. So what I'm doing now is trying to find out what's exactly the center line of the roof. That's important because this trim was CNC cut, and even though we are gonna shrink that's 12 centimeters high, we're gonna do 8 centimeters. One of the sides we want to keep, so we keep the shape, and also because we want to do as little cut as possible on the plate, because every time you cut a plate, you heat up the plate, and if you heat up the plate, you bend the plate. You can warp. So the less cut we do, the best, and we want to keep the exactly shape that it was originally. So the idea is to mark the center line that we have already a mark on this trim, the center line of the roof, then we align them together. We get a reference in each side, so that's the reference, the same distance from each side, and then we do a mark on this plate and we put them on the line. We tack weld From there, we check the shape of the roof. If the shape is what we want, we can weld that, and then we mark the cut and we cut in place, because we're gonna do the trimming of this piece. But if we do outside, it's easier for it to bend, and if it's already welded, I think it's gonna be easier to keep the shape. So this is how I measure the center line of the roof. I put the laser level here. I know the center of the bow. I know the center of the deck right there on the window, and then I create a line. I mark the laser all the way on the end. I mark the end, and then I have the center line of the roof. And with the center line of the roof, it's much easier to get the trim on the right alignment. Once we do that, then we weld fully these frames, hoping that the trim will help to hold the shape of the roof. That's the hope, because everything we've been doing for 2 days, it might just be useless if when we weld the T-bars, the roof goes like this or like this. And that can happen. Fingers crossed.
Devotion that brings me down. That without my love for the ocean, I will be no one, no Tack grip when I walk all over you.
Now that the back part of the roof trim is tack welded in place, we're gonna do the front part the same way. We're gonna just tack weld the front part, and then we can connect both of them on the sides. And once we have the whole perimeter tack welded, and then is when Peter is going to start doing the full welds, on hopes that it's more braced and that it doesn't deform that much. Fingers crossed. Yeah, aluminum is tricky. You need to brace as much as possible, otherwise it will deform. It always deforms. The only difference is that on the front part, I don't know why, but the line of the roof is not straight. There is like an angle, and it's gonna be really tricky, and it's gonna look weird if the front part is like curved. So we are just trimming the roof on the front part to make sure that it's a straight line, and that the front finishing is just flat. I think it's gonna look much better. Now is the time of the truth. All the structure of the roof that's gonna stay is ready. All we need to do is take out the reinforcements on the top, the stiffeners that are temporary on the top, just to see what happens, if the roof goes down or not, if it keeps the shape or not. Let's do this. So the idea is we need to take these reinforcements out and we need to know if the roof moves or not. So we're gonna do some lines and marks on the laser, and if moves we're gonna know because the laser is gonna move from the mark. I mean the mark is gonna move from the laser. And now we hope for the best. Fingers crossed. So far so good. One is stringing out and is still in the same position. So far, the little tiny movement it had is good enough for us, but we're gonna take the big brace. That's the huge brace, and that's the one that scares because it's 8 millimeters thick, and that's a little bit scary, but we need to do it. So far we went down a little bit, but really evenly. We knew a little bit it would go down because that was way too much brace, but so far I think we are still on the right shape, and that's perfect. If we do that, if like 3 millimeters, I think that's pretty good. I think we did it. Fitted the roof. That's pretty good. It went down, I believe, 4 to 5 millimeters, but all in how do I say, like symmetrical shape, like the same way it went down here, it went down there. Pretty close. A tiny little bit of difference, but you cannot see with your eyes, and that's much better than before. We've been scared for a week because if we take the brace and it goes a lot down, we don't even know what to do. The plane worked. That's awesome. You have an idea, you try. Fingers crossed, you do what you need to do, and it actually did work. The final test is me and Peter together on the top of the roof, and let's see if it moves. I think we need to. That's solid. Now that we are out of the muds, I have my boss here to say if she likes or not. What do you say?
The real boss is not here. He's sleeping. But I really like the result. Actually, this finishing is amazing, and the good thing is like we can collect water, we can have a lot of solar panels, and also it's gonna be great to hold on the roof.
Yeah, that's, by the way, one of the reasons why the finishing is so high. I don't know if you see, it could be a little bit lower to collect water. It didn't need to be that high, but if you see, that's the same all around the roof, and that means when you walk around the boat, you can hold yourself really well. Originally in the design we had another rail inside, but if you add a rail inside we lose space for solar panels, and I think it makes more sense to have it here.
I think they say brace yourself.
Brace yourself, yeah. For me it just like feels natural, like the round bar. I don't know if you understood how we did that. So the round bar, we just put a solid rod that is like 16 millimeters flush to the outside, and then we just weld this. Like imagine that this is flat, that's the rod. If you put the end of the rod flush with the flat bar, you end up with a hole here, so you just fill up this hole with weld, and you don't even need to weld on the back side because it will go through. It did go through all over, so the finishing is really amazing. What do you think?
I really like it. Let me go on the top. 5. It's like 5 meters?
No, it's like 4.5. And also, we are going to have another roof that we're going to talk about later, but we are going to have a hard like a hard bimini. So the hard bimini is going to go from like, I would say like here, to the end and to the arch. So that means with that roof that is also going to have a pipe connecting to this roof, we can collect, I would say, with heavy rain, we can fill up our tanks in maximum 2 hours. And that's just unbelievable. That's insane.
So we are talking about using the rainwater, but of course we are gonna filter this water.
Yeah, of course, no. And potentially, we are not sure yet. We might have an extra tank for this water. We might not even put on the main tank. We might put on a plastic tank that we can clean more often. And we can take the salts off if get dirt. And also, we could potentially have a pump to transfer from this tank to the others. We'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know exactly how it's going to be. We know we're going to have a pipe. From the pipe, we're going to have a Y valve that we can just throw overboard, or we can throw to a tank. And then from there we decide. And also the solar panels. Our old boat, we started with 600 watts of panels, and then we added another 430, I think. So we end up with like 1,030.
And we rarely. We almost didn't need to use the
Just when it rains.
engine. Yeah.
When it rained like for a week, then it would be a problem. But in this case,
we didn't need to turn on the engine to generate power for the boat.
Yeah, on this case, we might have, I was doing the calculation, it depends if we work with a company that we are talking to, because they can do custom-made panels, and if we do custom-made panels on this roof plus the Bimini, I believe we can go over 3,000 watts, close to 4,000 watts.
It's like a catamaran.
It's more than most of the catamarans have. I mean, like, it's insanely a huge amount of solar. 3,200, I guess.
Almost as calling.
No, it's the same. No, might be more. Yeah, we were there helping him with some stuff like years ago, and we were like, "Oh man, imagine having this amount of solar panels." Now we're gonna.
We were saying that he could sell energy to other boats that people could connect to him.
If we actually end up with more than 3,000 watts, this is gonna be just unbelievable. If we get over 2,000 watts, I'm already really happy. Time to go. See you guys later.
See you.